Welcome to the pocket. My name is Scooter, and here for you guys today, I have my week 18 power rankings, my final power rankings video for this year. And guess what? I'm recording this on Monday, so you guys will be able to see this Tuesday morning, right when you want to see it. And your boy's going to get to enjoy his New Year's Eve in peace without worrying about making a video. Then I'll see what I'm going to do for the playoffs and all that. As for now, let's get into this. I am hype to give you guys my final power rankings, and let's get it started off at the bottom with a new team that has fallen 3 spots to number 32. At number 32, at 13-3, we have the Cleveland Browns. Now, this week, they had another game starting DTR, and he currently has, I think, the worst touchdown to interception ratio in like NFL history or something. 1 touchdown to 10 interceptions. You hate to see it for the guy battling for his career and whatnot. The Dolphins were pretty much already eliminated from the playoffs, and they did not have Tua for this game. So I thought it would be incredibly low scoring, and it was in the end of the day, but not because of the Dolphins. They put up 20 in this game. The Browns only put up 3. So at least in as it currently stands, the worst team in the NFL, the Cleveland Browns, DTR, the team's given up. They don't have the Jameis magic anymore. They've been bad essentially on average with every quarterback they've started this year. So I'm not going to say it's just that, but once again, they're my worst team in the NFL at the end of the season. Up next at number 31, falling 3 spots as well, we have our number 31 team at 13-3, the Tennessee Titans. They took on the Jacksonville Jaguars this week in a battle of backup quarterbacks, and they did not come out on top. Between the two of them, that might be the most advantageous outcome, just because both of these teams' seasons are over, and you don't like to talk about tanking, but both of these teams are probably looking for draft position at this point. I mean, the Jaguars don't need a QB, but it's just nice to have. The Titans do need a QB. So I guess if you want to chalk it up to something, maybe the Titans just threw this one, but they haven't really looked consistent all year at anything. They had a nice win against the Texans earlier in the season, but other than that, they really haven't looked good. So, at the end of the season, at this point in time, they're maybe as bad as the Browns. They could even be worse, but I guess we'll just have to see. This is my list, so that's how the ranking falls. Titans at number 31. Up next at number 30, pulling off a win this week, climbing to 4-12, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars. They just played the Titans. Obviously, I kind of laid out for you what happened in that game. The Titans, they were starting Mason Rudolph. The Jaguars, they were starting Mac Jones, and I would definitely take Mac Jones over them. And obviously, 2 bottom-level rosters in the NFL. It wasn't really the most exciting game, to be honest. The draft position was the biggest outcome from that game. The Titans retained they actually climbed to the number 2 overall pick with the Giants winning, and with the Jaguars winning that game had an easier strength of schedule. So even though basically whoever won would have taken that 2 spot, the Jaguars actually would have had they would have had the 2 spot as well, because the Patriots have an easier strength of schedule, but that's it. They would have basically had that pick locked up. So too bad for them. They could have traded that away for a haul. But you know what? I guess you'll like to see the win. I mean, it's honestly controversial if you ask me, winning at this point in the season when you have a roster like this. There's a lot of turnover. It's not even like you're starting quarterbacks in. So what are you really proving to your roster? You're probably going to fire this coach. I don't know. I'm going to have a lot to say about a couple teams with that coming up. You know who I'm talking about. But yeah, that's it. Jaguars number 30. They're moving up 1 spot. They improved to 4-12. Good for them. Up next at number 29, we have another bottom tier team, another tankathon team that pulled off a win. So they're going to climb 1 spot. They improved to 4-12. At number 29, we have the Las Vegas Raiders. Now this week they played the New Orleans Saints, and the Saints do have a better record. They've been a better team all year, but I picked the Raiders to win because I knew that, like many others did, Derek Carr was not going to play. It was going to be Spencer Rattler or Jake Haener versus Aiden O'Connell, who was then back. And I figured, well, the Saints are probably a better overall roster, but I think O'Connell will do a better job with the more experience leading this Raiders team to a win. They got the win the week before, so kind of the momentum building there. Yeah, a little too late for that, right? I mean, you're all the way down here and you're just losing draft position. But the Raiders, I will say, they do have a pretty tough culture when it comes to fighting and scratching and clawing late in the year and pulling off some upsets. So, hey, good for them. Maybe they continue to hold on to Antonio Pierce. And up next, at number 28, climbing 4 spots, improving their record to 3-12, we have the New York Giants. Oh my God. A lot of you are probably waiting to hear what I got to say about this. And I have another video that I released yesterday. So go check that out if you want more. But to keep it short and sweet, I cannot believe that we won this game. The Colts were desperate to make the playoffs. They had to win. Even though they were without Anthony Richardson, they had a serviceable backup. Joe Flacco, they won a game with him earlier in the year. And Flacco was great the year before. He helped the Browns get to the playoffs. So, I thought, hey, even with Flacco in, we're still probably going to lose this game. But the Giants decided to come out and score the most points that I can remember in like the past 3 years. I can't remember the last time we scored 45 points. We won this game 45-33. We had a kick return touchdown. Drew Lock had 5 touchdowns. He had a rushing touchdown and 4 passing, 2 to Neighbors. So I guess the offense has been capable of this all year. And listen, 2 of those passing touchdowns were screen plays that broke free. Brian Dable, good play calling, exposing the Colts' poor tackling. So I guess we had a good game plan this week, but I honestly cannot believe that they won this game. The Giants have the hardest strength of schedule of any team in the first 8 picks. So winning a game is more consequential than any of those other teams. So the Giants went from holding the first overall pick, which we could only have for 1 week. Why would we have it for longer than that? And we dropped to 4. The 2 teams ahead of us, the 2 teams that most desperately need a quarterback, as I explained, the Tennessee Titans and the Cleveland Browns. So good job. Great culture win, I guess. They honestly are way better than the worst team in the NFL based off how they played. So I did give them a nice boost, but it is not a happy boost, to be honest. I mean, I love to see the Giants playing well and young guys like Neighbors heating up, but it's just too little too late. I mean, come on. Why did it have to happen now? I'm a little split down the middle emotionally, but at the end of the day, I'm a little frustrated, right? Because it just feels like they're toying with us at this point. And finally, staying put at number 27, dropping to 3-13 after getting blown out by the Chargers, I have the New England Patriots at the very top of the Tankathon tier. Now, you might be wondering, why didn't they fall? The Giants won, the Raiders won, the Jaguars won. The Raiders and Jaguars have a better record now. What are you doing? Well, I promise you there is thought behind this. First of all, Patriots have easily the best quarterback healthy in this tier. He's better. Drake May is better than Drew Lock. He's better than Aiden O'Connell, Mac Jones, Mason Rudolph, and definitely DTR. So that's for starters. Second of all, most of these teams had a quarterback earlier in the year who was better than Drake May at the time. The Browns had Watson and Winston, right? They're both, better at the time. For the Titans, they had Will Levis, who in his very first game, right? And Drake May's very first game starting, Will Levis was probably better, but I think, and then I think Drake May eventually surpassed him, clearly. T-Law was definitely better, but got injured. And then the Raiders had Gardner Minshew. The Giants had Daniel Jones. So the Patriots have the best quarterback in this tier. I don't care that they got blown out. They've been scrappy all year. I bet they've covered the most spreads out of all of these teams. I'm not sure about that, but I'm just explaining the way we know this team is competitive. That's why they're at the top of this tier. And finally, moving on to our next tier, the It's Been Over tier. So starting things off in this one, we're going to have at number 26 at 5-11, staying put, the New Orleans Saints. Now this week they played the Raiders. Like I said, they had Rattler. It was either him or Hainer who was going to start this week. They eventually decided to go with Rattler, I believe. And that was the wise move. Why would you not develop your young quarterback? But it didn't really matter. He threw 2 interceptions, only 1 touchdown. The Saints aren't just beat up at quarterback. Obviously, they don't have Olave. They don't have Shaheed. They haven't had him for weeks. It's been brutal. They had no run game. And this team season has just been over. I will say they're pretty competitive and scrappy when they have even just Derek Carr. But other than that, they really could be in the tankathon tier in terms of level of competitiveness. Like Drake May, as I stated before, is definitely better. But I think the rest of the Saints roster might be making up for that when you compare it to the Patriots roster. So that's how I justify their ranking there. They do also have 5 wins. You could say that was when they had Carr. Moving on to our next team in the It's Been Over tier. And if I didn't explain already, the It's Been Over tier is for teams that have been eliminated for quite a while, not the so close tier. This is your season has been over, but you're better than the Tankathon tier. So kind of a terrible place to be. But as I stated, moving on to our next team, the Chicago Bears are staying put as well at 4-12. They lose again to the Seahawks 6-3 in one of the worst football games ever televised on primetime. Many people sat down through the full, 2.5, 3 hours to watch this game end in a score of 6-3. Now, people have been talking about Caleb Williams, and a lot of people are saying, he's a bust. Come on now. This offensive line is absolutely dreadful. I mean, they allowed 7 sacks in this game, and you could say Williams rolls into some of these and stuff like that, but he's a pretty good athlete, and he is good inside the pocket at navigating it and creating space, avoiding pressure. So I'm definitely not going to put the blame on him for that. Now, as for the rest of the team, the coaching, the culture, I mean, this team started off pretty good. What were they, like 4-3? And then they lost every game since then. I mean, it's been one of the most strange collapses I've ever seen. I mean, this team has pieces. It's got a good defense. It's got a young QB. And they've got 3 wide receivers, and Swift's not a bad running back. They got 2 tight ends as well. So what's missing? Well, 2 of the 5 check marks I always talk about: quarterback, coach, weapons, offensive line, and defense as a unit. Now, the Bears did not have 2 of those this year. They did not have an offensive line, and they did not have good coaching. So you got 3 of the 5 check marks that results in you being a team with average potential, and the range of outcomes, this is in it. I mean, you collapse and you fire your coach, and you have a rookie quarterback who's leading your team, an intern head coach. Well, this is the result, is you can't find a way to win for the whole rest of the year. So too bad for the Bears. Better luck next year. I had a lot of hope in them, but you know what? I didn't project them to make the playoffs, and I'm glad that I didn't. Up next, also staying put, all these teams are staying put. At number 24 at 4-12, we got the New York Jets. They get absolutely dissected by the Bills. Completely destroyed. Aaron Rodgers benched himself in this game, as he even quoted, I believe it was in the post-game press conference, he was talking to someone, he was saying, might have to start thinking about Tyrod. We're down 33-0. And then they scored, and they put Tyrod in. And then, of course, in garbage time, they start producing. Bills back off, and it is what it is. But, I mean, this team, what is there even left to say? I mean, their team, their organization, the season, all complete failure. You had a Hall of Fame quarterback. You had a team that did better last year with Zach Wilson. And it looks like fire. Honestly, if you ask me, they had some things they were working through. I get he wasn't the greatest head coach, but I think firing Saleh was the biggest mistake that they made. And it's just really too bad. Had a lot of hope for them. They didn't make it. They didn't make it to the Super Bowl. That was my pick, them versus the Packers, and that did not happen. So too bad, so sad, and I'm not going to have to say that anymore as soon as the season's over. And finally, our last team in the It's Been Over tier, we have at 4-12, 23, not moving, the Carolina Panthers. They got destroyed by the Bucks this week. I thought it would be a lot closer than it was. Bryce still made some decent plays on offense, but this defense, I mean, they just got completely destroyed. It was really, really embarrassing. I mean, 48-14. Come on, Baker Mayfield, 5 touchdowns. Bucky Irving had over 100 yards on the ground. And they also had, I mean, how many rushing yards did they have as a team? 200 rushing yards and 350 passing. Oh my God, 7.4 yards per play, 10 for 14 on third down, 41 minutes time of possession. The Panthers just got dominated. I mean, they didn't even have that many turnovers. They allowed a couple sacks. They punted 6 times. But other than the few plays Bryce Young made on offense, there was no run game. Bryce was pretty, I mean, he threw no picks. He had 2 touchdown passes, but like you could say, it was probably garbage. Oh, yeah, Adam Thielen. He went off in this game, 5 for 110 and 2 touchdowns. So he's still alive. He's still playing well, which is really funny to me. Honestly, they keep trying to add this young talent, and Adam Thielen has just always been the answer. So their season, they're still ending, even though this is a bad loss. I think as long as you see Bryce Young playing well, you're feeling optimistic heading into next year. And I'm just glad that the Panthers' nightmare is finally over. They finally have something building here. So good for them. Up next, On to our next tier. So close. At 7-9, at number 22, dropping one spot, we have the Dallas Cowboys. Now they got destroyed by the Eagles and Kenny Pickett this week. They even had to send in their third string because Micah Parsons absolutely blew him up as he got a pass off. And the final score of this game was 40, right? It was 41-7. 41-7 was the final score of this game. Saquon Barkley, Devontae Smith had good games. A.J. Brown didn't have that many targets or catches, but he did score touchdowns. So this is just a regular Eagles performance. I mean, you look at the team stats, it tells it all. 179 on the ground, 197 passing, 6 for 13 on third down. That's probably because of Hurts being out. 0 sacks allowed, 3 punts. Actually didn't do amazing in time of possession, but they got 4 turnovers on defense as well. Pretty sure they had some defensive touchdowns in there too. So a dominant win over a scrappy team, but at that point they'd probably given up. They shut down CD, so I would expect you to blow them out, even if you do have your backup and they're not trying. But we'll give a little credit to the Eagles and the Cowboys. I mean, they just kind of rolled over, so I'm just going to drop them one spot. But overall, I think they're, they did almost technically make the playoffs. They were not eliminated. They could have been 8-8 right now. So I guess they really turned around the back half of their season, but the season's over. Time to, cross your fingers and hope Dak returns 100% next year. And now for our next team at now 7-9, falling to 7-9 at number 21. They're going to drop 2 spots, but I wanted to drop them all the way to the bottom. We have the Indianapolis Colts. This week, they were in a do-or-die situation. They had to beat the Giants, the worst team in the league, to make the playoffs. Not to make the playoffs, to have a chance, right? If they won the next week, there would have been some tiebreakers, and they would have still been eligible for the playoffs. They would have done everything they could do. But they did not have Anthony Richardson this game. Ultimately, I think that really hurt them. I think AR and JT combined would have created a run game that would have been too tough for us to stop. But ultimately, this Colts defense and special teams is really what failed them. They allowed a kick return for a touchdown. They allowed 2 screen passes to Neighbors to go for touchdowns over 30 yards. They allowed Malik Neighbors to catch jump balls. They allowed him to catch balls down to the 1-yard line. And then Wandale, they allowed him to catch a long, up the middle pass that he ran for an extra 25 yards within the 10-yard line. I mean, they couldn't make any plays to stop our offense with their defense in a week like this. If you're not ready for this Giants team, I really thought about keeping the Cowboys ahead of them and moving them even further. But, the Colts are better than the Cowboys are right now. They just had a bad week. They didn't have their starting quarterback. It is what it is. But too bad. So sad for the Colts. Thanks for losing. Thank you for that. As a Giants fan, I was saying you guys have to make the playoffs. For sure, you're going to beat us. Giants are going to hold the number 1 overall pick. But you had to play a trick on me. You just had to prove me wrong. So thank you for that. And, I hope AR does better next year and he can develop into what his potential is. But as for this year, their season is over. Up next in the so close tier at 6-10 ? Or 7-9. Moving up 2 spots, ? Yes, this is the 49ers. They're playing the Lions right now. Live reaction. It is 13 minutes left in the fourth quarter. The Lions just took the lead 31-28, scoring 18 points in the third quarter. But the Lions, they were up big in this game. So, or the 49ers were. They were playing really, really well. I mean, I don't know what happened versus the Dolphins. They really should have won that game. But this Lions defense that they're playing against, I'm pretty sure it has 10 starters injured, which is completely crazy. So that would kind of explain that. They're like the second youngest defense in the NFL right now as it stands. So, they're doing what they're supposed to do, but I'm just going to assume they're 6-10. I'll change the graphic before I put it in. Game will probably be over by then. But yeah, a little impressed by what the 49ers are doing late in the year. This I'll tell you is a culture win right here if they pull off this game, because they're not tanking. They're not looking for a quarterback in the top 5. They're not going to trade up. They're trying to prove to their team going into next year, hey, we lost a couple close ones. Look, we beat the Lions who are 13-2, and we are also injured. So maybe we just were, it gives you confidence going into the next year that it was a fluke that you lost as many games as you did, right? That is a culture win, not the Giants winning a game and improving the 3 wins on the year with 1 week left. That is not a culture win. Just my take personally, but there you have it. 49ers sitting there at 20, moving up 2 spots. Next, at number 19, dropping 1 spot, but improving to 8-8. At number 19, we have the Miami Dolphins. Now, they didn't have Tua this week, so A-Chan owners in fantasy were sad. Tyreek owners were sad. Jonnu owners were sad. But they were playing the Browns, who had DTR. And fortunately for the Dolphins, DTR is a lot worse than Tyler Huntley, and he could not compete with them. Now, I did move them down 1 spot. That's mostly because of other teams moving up and things like that. And I honestly thought, with the way this 49ers-Lions game is going, I would consider moving the Dolphins down below the 49ers. But they did just beat them. But I guess they don't have Tua anymore, right? They don't have Tua right now. So are they really better? I don't know. This is a confusing spot, but yeah, all these teams are eliminated. So who cares? It's my list. If you don't like it, you can go watch one of my other videos. So at 19. So, I mean, you win a game 20-3 versus DTR, and the Browns, a team that's given up, they're essentially tanking. You're moving down 1 spot, and it's kind of inconsequential. Your season's over. You got eliminated. You were really close. I love to see you fighting, but if Tua was going to get hurt again, you were gonna miss anyway. So that's too bad for you guys. Better luck next year. Hopefully Tua can stay healthy. So up next at number 18, I do have the Arizona Cardinals. They are moving up 2 spots after losing a close one to the Rams. Now, it was competitive. I didn't see what I wanted to see from their offense, but their defense, once again, it's like every other week or like every 3 games, they have an amazing defensive game. This Rams offense is legit, and they held them to 13 points. I mean, it really is a surprise. The Cardinals were also able to run the ball for 113 yards, so that was good. They held the Rams to 68 rushing yards. Cardinals had more passing yards, rushing yards, yards per play, more first downs, better third down efficiency, more plays, but they allowed more sacks. They punted less. They had more penalties, and they lost 2 fumbles. They dominated time of possession 36-20 or 37-23. How you lose this game to me is astonishing. It's just not converting in the red zone. You have 0 points in the first half. You had 6 in the third quarter, 2 field goals, and you get 1 more field goal in the fourth quarter. You just need more than that. You really do, especially when you're controlling the clock like this and running the ball. But for the effort and for the simple fact that the Dolphins don't have Tua, the 49ers really should be ahead of the Dolphins if I'm assuming Tua's out. But like I said, it's my list, so is what it is. So the Cardinals, yeah, a little impressed, disappointed they lost, but they've already been eliminated. So it was against a good team, so good for them, but so close but no cigar. Cardinals rising 2 spots to number 18. To our next team at number 17, dropping 1 spot and falling to 8-8. We have the Atlanta Falcons. They were rolling with Penix in a rookie battle versus Jaden Daniels in a very crucial game for them and the Commanders. The Commanders wanted to improve their playoff seeding. The Falcons needed to win to potentially keep their hopes alive. They did end up still being alive after this game, but it is very, very a very, very small margin of error for them to make the playoffs now at 8-8, of course. Now, they did play very well in this game. They took the Commanders to overtime, so it's really hard to drop them. But, I mean, you don't use your timeouts in a game-winning situation. Raheem Morris, what are we doing? What are we doing? I mean, you had 2. And everyone's making jokes on the internet. Raheem Morris saving his timeouts for next week. It's like, dude, you and Eberflus. How are there teenagers who play Madden who would have made the right decision there? You catch a ball inbounds with like less than 40 seconds left. You call a timeout. You're not like, what are you saving them for? I don't understand. I mean, and this is what separates the playoff teams from non-playoff teams, right? The Falcons are talented. Penix could work out. If they started him a little earlier, would have been better, but he doesn't look too bad right now. But it's these sorts of decisions that keep you from winning the football game. The management, the coaching decisions. Come on. They should have had a shot to make the playoffs, but unfortunately, they're probably not going to. But they are technically still alive. Unlike our next team. The next team is above them because of the record. They might be eliminated and the Falcons might not be, but I am sort of writing off the Falcons. Okay, so there's that. But like I said, this is a power rankings list. This is not a standings list. So our next team at number 16, improving to 9-7, taking down the Bears, but dropping one spot is going to be the Seattle Seahawks. Unfortunately for them, there were the Bengals jumped them, so that's why they're falling. That's why the Falcons are falling. But um, the Seahawks team, like I said in the Bears recap, I mean, they just played one of the grossest games we've ever seen. They beat them, though. They won. Unfortunately for them, they're eliminated. They can't make the playoffs. So this last game of theirs is going to be for pride. And they might very well finish the season 10-7, missing the playoffs. Oh my God, that is just brutal. So brutal for them. I mean, they're falling here on my list as 16, which really is borderline playoff team. But if you're in the NFC, that's not the case. Excuse me, borderline playoff team. But yeah, so they've got some good qualities. Their defense has been uh, slowly getting better every week this year, um, especially after the bye week. The offense, of course, with Geno, the breakout of JSN, DK, and Lockett has had its moments. Kenneth Walker, Charbonnet has been a great running back too, but they got to fix the offensive line if they want to be more consistently competitive with all these teams. That's how you end up around 500 is you just got one crucial flaw. And for the Seahawks, unfortunately, it's the offensive line. It limits your consistency. Moving on to our playoff contenders, starting off at number 15, falling to a record of 9-7 and dropping 5 spots. My biggest faller, we have the Houston Texans. They played the Ravens on Christmas Day. It was the second game, and CJ Stroud in this game. I made an excuse for Caleb Williams earlier in this game. And I'm not saying Caleb Williams hasn't had some accuracy issues, some decision-making issues, but CJ Stroud in this game, I mean, he had clean pockets, would deliver a throw, and he would just miss him. I mean, I don't know what happened to him. He was supposed to be like this great processing quarterback who was good at, calculating when to take the deep shots and when to place the ball, throwing with anticipation, where to place it, accurate quarterback. What's going on with him? Is he getting shaken up by this offensive line being worse this year and not being able to hold it together? That might be the case. I mean, and also the run game has fallen off for them too. Mixon's been so quiet the past 2 weeks. And I don't know what's going on with this team. They're falling 5 spots. The Bengals jumped them, and so did the Commanders. The Chargers jumped them. I believe it was last week or something like that. This team it just seems like they're falling apart. They just don't have like their mojo. They're losing it right now. Their defense, what's going on? I mean, you lose to this Ravens team that you should at least be competitive with, 31-2. Your only points were safety. You didn't score on off. You didn't get a field goal on offense. You couldn't stop their run game. This is supposed to be a defensively led team. I know they have Stroud and Bobby Slowick, but come on. I mean, what happened in this game? They better bounce back next week, or else this is not going to be looking good for them heading into the playoffs as the 4th seed. And up next in our playoff contenders tier at number 14, falling to 9-7 and dropping 2 spots in the power rankings, we have the Denver Broncos. Now, they played an amazing game against the Bengals that I was talking a lot about last week about the playoff implications, because if the Bengals were going to make the playoffs, or the Dolphins or the Colts, at least either the Chargers or the Broncos were going to have to fall out. Chargers and Broncos played each other. Broncos lost, so they became the target. And lucky for the Bengals, they got to play them the following week. So the Broncos have gone from 9-5, is it, to 9-7 over the past 2 weeks, and the Bengals are now 8-8. This couldn't have gone any better for the Bengals and any worse for the Broncos. I mean, the Bengals are red hot right now. The Broncos have lost 2 in a row, and now they play the Chiefs in the last game of the year. So I'm not saying this is going to be a disappointing season, but it'll be a disappointing end, right? Because you thought you were going to make the playoffs for sure with your rookie quarterback. But if you lose the last 3 games of the season, you just can't get that 10th win. It's just brutal, right? And the Chiefs might rest their starters. They very well might. But if they want to keep either the Broncos or the Bengals out of the playoffs, they have the potential to do it. Of course, if the Bengals don't win, then they will not make the playoffs. And I just realized apparently the Dolphins are still eligible to make the playoffs. So I guess there's that. But yeah, I don't think they're going to do it, especially without Tua. But yeah, this Broncos team, unfortunate loss, unfortunate 2 weeks for them, but they're still in the playoff contenders tier. They're going to give it their best shot against the Chiefs. I hope the Chiefs play their starters so we get a real look at what this Broncos team is. And if they lose, then we'll see the Bengals make it into the playoffs. And up next, how about them Bengals? Rising up 4 spots to number 13 and improving to an 8-8 record. How was it? 4 weeks ago where they were 4-8 and they were just building up losses early in the year. And everyone was calling me crazy early in the year, halfway through the year, holding on to faith for them. I mean, I eventually dropped them down to I think as their lowest was 21 or 22, where I was just like, listen, if you're 4-8, I just can't. I mean, I cannot put stock into you if you can't finish games, right? You can stay in them all you want, but you got to finish them, right? And they had a couple bad losses in there, but now finally they're back to 500. They control their own destiny. They play the Steelers, so that's gonna be a tough game. But the Steelers honestly don't need to win. I mean, they're pretty locked in as that 5th seed. Well, actually, the Chargers are also 10-6. So if they would rather play the Texans than the Ravens, then they ought to win this game. So it's going to be a tough matchup versus this. And plus, you get to kick out the Bengals. So they're 100% going to try to win, right? But they haven't looked good recently. They really haven't. And this Bengals team, like I said, is red hot. I mean, the defense is only getting a little better every week. I mean, they played pretty well against the Broncos. They did what they had to do. They fell apart a little bit in the 4th quarter, allowing that Marvin Mims long touchdown, but went to overtime. They couldn't get it done. The Broncos couldn't get it done on offense. And then the Bengals finally got the ball back and finished the game, scoring a touchdown. So they are my biggest riser. I'm very excited to see if they can get into the playoffs because I'll say, all of you doubted me. I said, if there's any team that's going to climb out of this deficit, it's going to be Joe Burrow and the Bengals. Can't wait to see what happens with this one. And up next, an NFC team climbing 2 spots, improving to 9-7, and at number 12. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They played the Carolina Panthers this week and absolutely obliterated them, 48-13, I believe was the score. Bucky Irving, Mike Evans, Jalen McMillan got in there. Baker Mayfield, what do you have? 5 touchdown passes. What a day. I mean, the last time these two teams played, it went to overtime. This time, not even close, 48-13. So almost got it right. 360 yards and 5 touchdowns for Baker. The team had 200 rushing yards altogether. So we know that this Bucs team, as I've been saying, they have so many weapons. They might have lost Godwin, but they got what they need on offense. They can replace those guys. And you know what? They're hitting the ground running heading into the playoffs. And a lot of these NFC teams that are looking like playoff teams, Buccaneers, Commanders, Rams, they're getting hot at the right moment. And a lot of the guys near the top are not getting hot. So very interested to see what happens in this first round of the playoffs, but we got to get through week 18 first, right? And a lot of crazy stuff happens then. So we'll see. I mean, they technically could still miss the playoffs if they lose and the Falcons win, and then some kind of tiebreaker or something will determine that. But yeah, the Falcons swept the Bucks. Crazy stat. 2 of the Falcons wins are versus the Bucks, and 2 of the Bucks losses are to the Falcons. So if you take out those 2 games, the Bucks are 9-5 and the Falcons are 6-8. So there's that. There's a stat you didn't know, probably. But yeah, the Bucks, they look good. They played the Panthers. I mean, they're rising 2 spots just because they completely destroyed them. And the Panthers aren't that bad. I mean, they're my number 23 team, but they're not that bad. They're almost in the so close tier. But, good to see it from the Buccaneers. I love to see Baker Mayfield having a good time out there. And I honestly think they have potential with the way their offense is playing. So good luck to them. Up next at number 11, climbing to 11-5 record on the year, plus 2, we have the Washington Commanders. They were down early against the Falcons. I believe it was 17-7. If I check the exact box score, you'll see, yes, it was 17-7 going into half. Commanders made it 17-14 and then scored 10 in the 4th. Falcons scored 7, so it was tied. Went to overtime, to which the Commanders ended up winning. Now, the Falcons did kind of choke this game, not calling the timeouts. They did. But Jaden Daniels, oh my God, this guy is unbelievable. 24 for 36, 227, 3 touchdown passes, did throw an interception. But this is the part that's crazy to me. 16 carries for 127 yards. Oh my God. Like, he is doing Lamar things out there as a rookie. Like, this is a Lamar primetime game right here. That is that stat line. But he's doing it as a rookie, and he's doing it on the Commanders. He's not doing it on the Ravens. This guy's an absolutely insane talent. I can't believe he's on the Commanders. I'm not saying I wanted the Giants to take him or something, but I just can't believe how well he's panned out. I was really low on this Commanders team. I think I had him going 6-11. So I might be the most wrong on them out of any team this season except for the Vikings. Yeah, the Vikings I was crazy wrong on, but so were a lot of people. But yeah, good for the Commanders. Pulling off a win, really putting the icing on the cake. It was getting a little shaky halfway through the year, and they've really buttoned it back up. And they're cementing themselves as a playoff team heading into this postseason. Up next, we got our last two teams in the playoff contenders tier. We have the Los Angeles Chargers climbing one spot, improving their record to 10-6 at number 10. Now, they destroyed the Patriots this week, 40-7. In this game, Justin Herbert and Ladd McConkey had a field day. Herbert, 26 for 38, 281, and 3 touchdowns. And Ladd caught 8 receptions for 94 yards and 2 tutties this game. Great game from him. Dobbins back out there, 19 for 76 and a tutty on the ground. They got Hassan Haskins in there. Kamani Vidal, let's go. Got in there a little bit. So their run game was working well. Quentin Johnson, he got in there a little bit. Palmer, and then you know how it is. They have 6 or 7 guys who also had receptions. And the Patriots, I mean, man, just really stinks. They pulled Drake May at the very end, but he was 12 for 22, 117 and a touchdown. Hey, didn't throw a pick. Gibson was in there. May was getting some scrambles. Ramondre only had 2 carries for 1 yard. It was just a pitiful game. I mean, you look at the team stats, total yards. Chargers had 428 to 181, 5.6 yards per play to 3.8, 29 first downs to 11, 10 for 17 on third down versus 2 for 10. I mean, that's so bad. 2 for 2 on fourth down, 77 total plays, 0 sacks allowed to the Patriots, 4 only punted twice, less penalties, and time of possession 40 and a half minutes to 19 and a half minutes. Total domination, but it was the Patriots, and you're a playoff team. This is a pretty big blowout, but it's not really all that different. I would say what the Bucks did was far more impressive than what you did, hence the Bucks climbing 2 and the Chargers climbing 1. And finally, our last team in the playoff contenders tier at number 9, staying put, improving the 10-6. We got the Los Angeles Rams. They're taking care of business. They won 13-9 to the Cardinals in a game where they got beaten pretty much every single team stat. I mean, I told you in the Cardinals one, Cardinals had more yards per play, rushing yards and passing yards, more first downs, better third down efficiency, and they punted less. But you know what? The Rams had less. And they had Cardinals had more time of possession. But like I said, the Cardinals had more penalties. They had more interceptions, so turnovers, and they couldn't convert in the red zone. I mean, the Rams got 1 touchdown, and that was the difference in this game. Person who scored that touchdown, Kyron Williams. Hey, James Conner did leave this game, so he ended up filling for him. They had Michael Carter, Michael Wilson. I guess Trey Benson was hurt. Don't know what happened to DeMarcari or DeMarcado either. He was looking pretty good halfway through the year, but Cardinals couldn't get it done against this Rams team. They're just too buttoned up. Couldn't catch up to that lead. And this Rams defense, honestly, yeah, what a good game from them to hold this Cardinals team to 9 points. I mean, 2 interceptions from Akella Witherspoon and Carmen Kitchens. Not sure who that is. Good for him, though. Braden Fisk, 2 sacks. I mean, a lot of people trashed that draft pick, but him next to Jared Verse, the teammates, is looking pretty good. Verse did not have a sack, but Kobe Turner did. So Rams, another taking care of business win. I would really like to see more upside and consistent performances from this team, but hey, good for them. They got the win. They're doing what they're supposed to do. I'm not putting them in Super Bowl hopefuls, but they're teetering. Yes, they are. Moving up a tier, this is where things get interesting. We have our Super Bowl hopefuls. Now, there's been a little bit of movement in this tier. There's been some teams moving up into this tier. There's been some changes, but this first team isn't going anywhere. At number 8, dropping to 10-6, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers, who got destroyed by the Chiefs. They finally had Pickens back, but I mean the Chiefs, oh my God, they're just such a powerhouse team. I don't I thought it would be a close game. I guess I was wrong. But so really you could argue this Steelers team should be like in the same tier as the Rams, because I do think that's kind of where they align. Is the Rams with the offensive culture of the NFL. Of course, there's other ones, right? I know the Chiefs, the Lions, but for years and years and years, you trust Stafford and McVay. That's just kind of like what they're mainly known for. The Steelers are mainly known for their defense, so they're very similar in terms of like what they're built around, like one side of the ball, but I don't know. They're just losing a little bit of that magic, aren't they? I mean, maybe it dials back in the playoffs. If they don't want to play the Ravens, they got to win this week, because if the Chargers win, Steelers will fall to the 7th seed, or they'll fall to the 6th seed, and they will play the Ravens, who are the 3 seed, instead of the Texans, who are the 4 seed. They have much better shot against the Texans, so they got to win this week. And this week they're playing the Bengals, who are red hot, and they want to get into the playoffs. So it's going to be really, really tough for them. It's going to be a Saturday game, so we will know before Sunday. But yeah, they got to hold on for dear life, or else they're I mean, yeah, if they lose, they're not a Super Bowl hopeful. I mean, you got to beat the Bengals in this game just to keep them out of the playoffs, right? Because that's a dangerous team to see. So good luck to the Steelers. I really got my fingers crossed for them. I got faith in them, but we're just going to have to see. And up next, I'm just going to talk about both of these teams at the same time. They played each other. And for the whole season, I've had the Packers ranked ahead of this Vikings team, despite the record. I ignored it. I said Sam Darnold is not going to make the plays he needs to make. In the playoffs, I did say. So I trusted the Packers more to win a Super Bowl, right? And that's why they were ahead. And I also dug my heels in and said that the Packers would win this game this time around. So I was wrong. It was actually like the opposite score of what I predicted. I predicted 28-24 Packers, and it was like 27-25 Vikings. So it was a very close game. I mean, not for a long time. The Vikings had that lead of, it was 27-3 by the end of the third quarter. And the Packers only had 3 points at one point, and they scored a touchdown in the third quarter. So I don't know when exactly that was, but it was 10-27 at the start of the fourth quarter. Packers scored 15 in the fourth quarter. Oh, they make it look close, but it's literally the same thing that happened last time. Jordan Love, really disappointing game from him. 19 for 30, 185 and a touchdown. Disappointing game from the receivers too. Where was Jaden Reed? 1 catch for 6 yards. I mean, Bo Melton had a better game than he did. Malik Heath had a touchdown. He had a better game than he did. Tucker Kraft, 2 for 53, had a better game. And Dobbs basically emerged as the one in this game. I mean, I feel like this team is different when they have Christian Watson. Tell me if I'm wrong. He's hurt all the time. But when they have him, this offense is different. I mean, Jacobs was still good on the ground. But this Vikings team, they're just too steady. Darnold, 377 and three touchdowns and interception. Run game was not that great, but they used it. Their extension of the run game with throwing flat routes to tight ends and CJ Ham, the fullback, and Cam Akers. That's like an extension of the run game. And Aaron Jones, they completed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. They completed basically 10. What I would assume is check down passes. So add that to the run game total. Jefferson, 8 for 92. Naylor scored. Addison scored. That's a Vikings game right there. That's a Vikings game. They get all their weapons involved. They do all the things that a good team does. They pass, they run, they have extensions of the run game. I mean, the Vikings are just a very well-rounded team, and I complained saying, oh, their downfall is Sam Darnold. They have everything but a quarterback. Well, I'll give it to them. They got a quarterback this year. Darnold looks different. I saw him beat the Packers, saw him easily take over. I mean, I'd like to see him come from behind because he is going to be losing at one point in the playoffs. But, hey, maybe he won't. Maybe he won't. Maybe the Vikings will win the Super Bowl. They do have the second best record in the NFL. It looks like the Lions are going to tie them. They've taking a commanding lead versus the 49ers. But yeah, good for the Vikings. Too bad for the Packers. Hey, they still could have one more rematch in the playoffs, and we'll just have to see what happens. It's really hard to beat a team 3 times, and hey, maybe it's better off for the Packers that they lost that game. Probably not, but we'll see. They're going to be the 5 seed no matter what. So, or the 6 seed. And now it is time to talk about the Super Bowl favorites. And this tier is going to start off with the Lions. I might have to change that based off of the way this game is going right now. They were losing. Now they're up 40-20. So, they're doing that Lions thing where they start to absolutely crush whoever they're playing. Go off 3 touchdowns. Lots of rushing from the Lions. Laporta, Amon-Ra, and J-Mo have receiving touchdowns. J-Mo's got 2 touchdowns. Man, I should have started him. But, yeah, so the game's pretty much over. So, let's just call it 4A and 4B with the Ravens and the Lions. So, the Lions are going to be 14-2. And the Ravens are going to be 11-5. So, big difference in the record there. But the Ravens, they had a rough start to the year. They lost to the Chiefs. They blew that game versus the Raiders. So, they could very easily. And they lost close games. They could very easily be 13-3 or 14-2. They very easily could be. As for the Lions, I explained it earlier, actually, in the 49ers one. They are missing 10 starters on defense. So they're tied for like the second youngest defense in the NFL because they have all their backups in. So that is not good. At this point, 1 week before the playoffs, you need that first round bye. And I don't know that this Lions team can beat that Vikings team. I mean, they heated up in the back half of this 49ers game. They did. So it improved my confidence in them, but I still am a little nervous. I mean, I have the Vikings right behind them and a tier below, but I have them right behind them. Looks like the Lions are catching their feet, but I think there is cause for concern. When you're talking about these other Super Bowl favorite teams, if they're not missing 10 starters on defense, I mean, I don't care how good your offense is. It'll be like the Bills game where you just can't stop the Chiefs, the Bills, the Eagles, or the Ravens. You're not going to be able to stop them, right? So that's just what I foresee. That's why I have them at the bottom of this list is their team has a unit that is the biggest liability. Next, I kind of talked about them already, but I'll further elaborate. At 11-5, climbing 1 spot to number 4, we have the Baltimore Ravens, who absolutely obliterated the Texans. Merry Christmas, CJ Stroud. You're not scoring any points this week, is what the Ravens said. You're only going to get a safety. So they had one of the most dominant performances. I think probably the most dominant performance they had all year. I mean, you don't let the other team score, and they can't stop you from scoring. I mean, you can't ask for much more than that. This Texans team is not that bad. It's not all just the offensive line. This Ravens defense, it's like the inverse of the Lions. The Lions are not healthy anymore. Early in the year, the Ravens were injured. They were missing Humphrey. They were missing Wiggins. But now those guys are back. The secondary looks a lot better. They're not playing Joe Burrow twice, so they look a lot better, right? I mean, and even though they did lose to this Eagles team, this Eagles team's getting a little banged up, and the Ravens, as I stated, are getting healthy. I think the difference between this 5 through 3 is like literally 3A, 3B, 3C. Because it's just going to be who's healthy when they play each other, right? When the Eagles play the Lions, who's healthier? Do the Lions finally get healthy? I think they'll win. Do the Eagles fully recover and the Lions still have a couple injuries they're dealing with? I'd probably take the Eagles. But for the Ravens, it's like, yeah, if they stay healthy, can they beat the Chiefs? Hell yeah, they can. Oh my God. Yeah, they can. They were right there with them early in the year before they even developed. But this Ravens team, can they beat the Chiefs? Oh yeah, they could beat the Chiefs. Early in the year, they had a brand new offensive line. Their secondary wasn't really looking that great, although they were healthy, and they were still right there. So now with them healthy, I mean the Chiefs are, they're progressing as well. But this Ravens team, they were right there last year. They could have beat them last year, and they barely missed their opportunity. I think their offense is a little better and would be able to consistently hang with the Chiefs and battle against that Spagnuolo defense. And up next in our Super Bowl favorites tier, climbing 1 spot with a record of 13-3 at our number 3 spot, we have the Philadelphia Eagles. Fly, Eagles, fly. We beat the Cowboys, backup quarterback Cooper Rush without CeeDee Lamb. But they did blow them out. They really did. I mean, it was, 41-7. I'm pretty sure I mean, they just destroyed him. It was Saquon had like 167 rushing yards on the ground. Um, Kenny Pickett had a touchdown pass. Tanner McKee had two. That's because Kenny Pickett actually got knocked out by Micah Parsons. He got knocked out of the game. But Smitty went off 6 for 120 and two touchdowns. A.J. Brown had a touchdown, 3 catches for 36 yards, though. The Eagles defense completely smothering them. They only got 6 third downs. They actually only got 1 sack against them, but they got 4 turnovers. And I'm pretty sure they had some defensive touchdowns in there. So, I mean, you did what you were supposed to do. It's not like the Patriots, right, where the Chargers blew out the Patriots. It's a little better than when the Bucks blew out the Panthers. But, yeah, I mean, you did what you were supposed to do. You blew them out. They're not a good team. And I guess it's good momentum heading into the playoffs because the fact is you guys did not have Jalen in there. So, Kenny Pickett isn't like the worst backup in the league, but even Tanner McKee was going out there and throwing touchdowns. I really do think – I'm not saying that that's like I'm not taking anything away from Jalen. I'm saying I think the Cowboys really like gave up at this point. They shut down CD. They knew their season was over. They were eliminated from playoff contention. So it is what it is for them. Eagles, I think eventually they will collapse. I just don't trust Sirianni, to be honest, and or Jalen coming off of a concussion heading into the playoffs. I will tell you this right now, if he does not play at least a half versus the Giants, that'll be a huge mistake. You don't want it because he doesn't practice or play week 17. He does not practice or play week 18. And then just imagine if they get a first round bye. He doesn't play another week. And then you have a week of practice. That's like a month of not playing football. You got to get him out there in this Giants game. I'm being serious. I'm a Giants fan and I'm still giving you my best case, my best argument for what I think you guys should do. Do not bench Jalen. If he can play through the concussion or if he can get healthy from the concussion and play through it being not 100%, but he's like 95% there, get him out there for a half and rip him out. Just get him back on the field because I'm telling you, this happens to teams all the time when they're doing so well the whole season. They they rest their starters or a player gets injured and they rest week 18 and then they don't play. And then they go into the wild card round and they get upset because they weren't playing football. You got to just do it the same thing every week. I feel like taking a rest from it's a trap. It gets you out of your head. That rest is BS. Nobody's resting. Everyone is preparing to beat you. If you're rested, and I get you're in the film room, right? You're resting your bodies. I get it. But just like honestly, I wouldn't. It's like, would you rather, if you're in an ice bath, would you rather get out and get back in if you knew you had to finish like another 5 minutes, or would you just stay in? Right? When you get out, you're like, oh, it feels nice. I'm nice and warm right now. Oh, I could get used to this. And you get back in, and oh, it's cold. I don't like it again. Stay in the water. That's my take on the Eagles. I think they're going to collapse if they don't handle this right. And like I said, that's just Jalen. Just wait till Sirianni gets his hands on like a game management situation in like the divisional or NFC championship game. I can't wait to watch it happen. But yep, I'm giving you respect. You're there at 3. I think it's right where you belong. And moving on to our next team. This team makes me very nervous. They're 15-1. They're staying put at number 2. And I get a feeling that I should move them up to number 1 just to jinx them. But that team is the Kansas City Chiefs. Best record in the NFL. They play the Broncos next week. If they beat the Broncos and the Bengals win, the Bengals will become the 7th seed. And if the Bengals either lose or the Broncos win, then the Broncos get in as the 7th seed. The Chiefs are the 1 seed, so they'll have a bye, but they will play the lowest seed. So if that does turn out to be the Bengals, who are probably going to win in the first round, whoever they end up playing, that would be the Bills, right? Well, actually, probably not going to win, but they could. Then you're going to be like, I'd rather play Bo Nix and Sean Payton in their first playoff run together, right? So honestly, I would allow the Broncos to win if I was the Chiefs. That's what I would do. I would rest my starters. I would play them for a half and then choke the second half. Get all my second and third string guys in there. And you know what else that does? That gets them ready for the playoffs. Guys get hurt and they got to get in there. Look at the Lions. They got 10 backups in right now on defense. You got to get these guys out there and get them ready because it's these guys that make the plays in the playoffs. All of the great, amazing players are on every team. They cancel each other out. The only things that don't cancel out is the quarterback because it's too important and they're too different in skill level. But all the players that match up like a wide receiver in the corner, they cancel out. So who makes the plays to win? Your slot receiver, your wide receiver 3, right? Your second tight end, your fullback, your second inside linebacker, your fourth corner, right? Your nickel corner, your backup safety. Those are the guys that win you Super Bowls. Those are the guys that they get the team of the week cards in Madden, right? Because they know that they're not going to do this again, but it came at the right time. So you got to get those guys in there. I would rest for the second half. I just said about the Eagles, don't rest your starters. If you're the Chiefs, you can do it, right? If you're the Patriots and you want to play a half and rest, or you want to play a quarter and rest, you do it, right? You've been to the Super Bowl. This is not unfamiliar territory having a first round bye, right? That is not unfamiliar. In fact, Andy Reid is one of the best all time when he has 2 weeks to prepare for a game or in week 1. So this is a different case. You get special treatment if you have consistently gone to the Super Bowl. Take, for instance, 49ers. Lions are going to be in that territory soon. Eagles only made 1 Super Bowl last year, lost first round. Year before that, lost first round. Ravens can't get past the AFC Championship. Bills can't get past the AFC Championship. Packers only made it once. Vikings, this is going to be our first legit year with this team. This is the brand new team. Steelers, I mean, they never win. They just make the playoffs as the 7th seed and lose, right? So that's all your teams at the top. None of them get the benefit of the doubt. And if they don't, then all the teams below them, except for one, don't get the benefit of the doubt. You know who else gets it? The Bengals. You know why? They have a Super Bowl appearance and an AFC championship attached to their quarterback and head coach. So they get that benefit of the doubt. The only other team that has that, I'd say the Rams are pretty close. They got a Super Bowl victory, and then they have a couple playoff runs. But they couldn't. It was kind of a one-year wonder thing, you got to admit. But the Chiefs, it's not what it is. With the Bengals, I don't think it's what it is. Every year Burrow's healthy, he makes the AFC Championship game, the Super Bowl, or now with a worst defense I've seen him ever have, he is clawing his way to an above 500 record potentially, right? So all these teams not getting the benefit of the doubt, but the Chiefs do, and I'm very scared of them. Honestly, I feel like they're going to three-peat. There's too much inconsistency with all these teams. There's something about each one of them. I talked about the Eagles. Ravens are inconsistent, too matchup dependent. The Lions are banged up all over their defense. And then the Bills, Josh Allen, this hand injury is the only thing that could potentially scare me. But if it's not that, I don't know what it is. So I'm keeping the Bills at 1. But the Chiefs staying put at 2. They're scary. I really might move them up next week just to try to jinx them. And now, finally, let's talk about our last team. We have the Buffalo Bills improving to 13-3. They're the 2 seed in the AFC. They're going to stay put. They beat the Chiefs earlier in the year. They beat the Lions. So I think it is pretty appropriate for them to be right here. It's just going to be, we're just waiting for the playoffs, honestly, for the Bills and the Chiefs, right? I mean, we know we can pretty much tell who they're going to play. Actually, like I said, I think the Chiefs are there's no punishment for them losing, so they're going to go 15-2, snag the 1 seed. They're going to let the Broncos in at 7, which means the Bills will play them and knock them out. Or they could play chess instead of checkers, let the Bengals in to knock out the Bills, and Chiefs would say, I'd rather play the Bengals than the Bills potentially because they're going to take one of them are going to take each other out. So they'll just have to see. That 7 seed is a sneaky spot. That 2 seed is not a great seed to be in because those 7 seeds are always tricky. Look, the Eagles are going to have to play the Packers on the other side, but let's continue over here. And then you got the Ravens who are going to play the Chargers. Ravens dub, that happened already. Steelers, Texans. This is actually a pretty good game, but I'll take the Steelers. So the Steelers and Ravens and Bills and Chiefs would continue. Steelers would get whooped by the Chiefs. Bills play the Ravens. Of course, one of them's got to beat each other. And so they're going to, let's just say Bills, Chiefs is the AFC Championship. And like I said, that's just what we're waiting for. Could be Ravens, Chiefs. Could be somehow probably, I mean, the Chiefs, they're not losing. I mean, they're not losing before the AFC Championship. It literally hasn't happened yet, so I'm not going to bet for that to happen. So yeah, you can just write up the Steelers to lose in the divisional round if you want to say place a futures bet or something. But yeah, I mean, there's not too much to say. Literally my last power rankings video of the year. We're gonna have a bunch of different stuff coming out once the playoff seeds are finally decided. But yeah. thank you guys so much for watching. And if you watched all my power rankings videos this year, thank you for that too. I mean, they've done really well. I've really enjoyed making them. They take a lot of time. I'm recording this one on Monday, so it's going to get out extra early for you guys. Please leave a like on it. Support me, reward me for getting this stuff out early to you so I keep doing it. And then tell me, am I wrong about dropping the Lions 2 spots? I mean, they came back and eventually destroyed the 49ers, but don't you admit that their defense has got some holes to it? And if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. It would really warm my heart. I mean, this is my first year doing YouTube, and it's been a very bizarre experience, especially when it comes to asking for support and stuff for subscribers. But honestly, I want you to join and see the kind of content I'm producing for you guys. You can help give me input, and we can try to make it better together as a community because I want your guys' feedback. So please tell me in the comments if you have any ideas. And later in the week, you can stay tuned for my score predictions video. It'll be my last video this week. My score predictions have been super accurate this year, above 67%, I believe, currently in pick accuracy. So that is very good. And after that, I will have my last Giants preview video coming out this season. And then I'll have the Giants reaction. And then that will be all for the regular season. I guess we'll have a Black Monday episode where we'll probably see if the Giants make a move on Dable and Shane. I'll tell you in my Giants preview whether I think the Giants should fire Shane and Dable or not, or one or the other. Whatever's to be said there, I will say in the Giants preview. So it happens before Black Monday. And yeah, thank you all so much for watching. Please leave that like, leave that comment, and subscribe if you're new. And stay tuned for those other videos. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching, and peace out.